Hello there, I'm meteorologist Rob Carlmark, and I work here at ABC 10, which is a TV station in Northern California. So if you're watching this on YouTube, that's most of what my focus on is roughly in this area. However, we'll be touching issues up and down our great state because there's a lot going on. If you don't know, every Thursday at 5:30 in the morning, we get an update to the U.S. Drought Monitor. So it can go state by state, and they have various levels of drought. Now, when we started off this rainy season, that big dark red area you saw in the San Joaquin Valley near Fresno and other spots, that was a 5 out of 5, what they call exceptional drought. So as bad as it could be going into the rainy season. We had a bunch of things in the background. We had 2 big years of drought. It was another year of La Nina, so there was some concern that Southern California would be dry, the Pacific Northwest would be wet, and Northern California somewhere in between. However, if you get big atmospheric rivers, and we've had 11 of them up and down the state throughout the course of the season, we've got more on the way, you're going to see some kind of drought relief. And in fact, now we are at a moment where almost half the state is in what we would call a no drought situation. In other words, there's no category of drought because we have all the water and all the snowpack that we need at the moment going into the long, hot summer. With that said, we've got a couple areas far northeast corner of the state, a little bit of the Mojave Desert, but I'm not really too worried about that. And these other colors in between, that adds up to about 8% of the state. So essentially 92% of the state is either in no drought or very low level drought status. And it's very easy to understand why. Just for an example, and I showed this yesterday, but I think this is really important. If you're not familiar with Kirkwood, they've got a couple of lifts that go from the bottom of the meadow all the way up to the top. And this is one of those lifts. So this is at the top of the mountain, more than 9,000 feet up. They're having to dig down to get access to the chairs to be able to run these chairlifts. The same situation at Heavenly Mountain Resort, which is South Lake Tahoe, just digging out from all the snow drifting. That's another one that's mid-mountain up to the top. Unbelievable amount of snow that they will have to clear just to get things operationally running again. And that's a hard task. You can use some equipment to do it, but for some of those, it's literally just a shovel and manpower is what you need to get things open. So again, not surprising whatsoever when you see images like that, but this is where we are for snowpack, an incredible 215% of average for April 1st. Remember, this is still the middle of March, and we've got more storms. When you look at the reservoir situation, if I could wave a magic wand, I'd want a little bit more for Shasta, a little bit more for Trinity, which is not labeled here, but all these other big reservoirs are doing just fine, and even if they seem a little bit down, there's so much snowpack that's still going to melt and move into those big reservoirs that I'm not worried whatsoever about them getting at least full or close to full by the time we get to the end of the spring melt. With that said, we've got many more storms backloaded over the next 7 to 10 days. In the meantime, this is actually some really good weather. We've got green grass showing up, wildflowers, creeks and streams are still running, and rivers are running very high, but they're starting to come off their peak, even the big ones like the San Joaquin and the Sacramento. So we're looking at really great conditions. The only side things that we're seeing are for higher elevation spots that are seeing some melt during the day. It's refreezing overnight, especially where the water goes across roads. So we are seeing a lot of accidents early in the morning related to ice, truck and vehicle. So heads up for that. If you live in the Northern California Valley areas, it's going to be a beautiful day. Highs in the 60s, no issues whatsoever. So what we're looking at here for rain and snow over the next 7 to 10 days is a lot of action once we get past the weekend. I do think we're going to get a little bit during the weekend. In fact, Sunday is going to be a fairly weak storm, 1/4 inch of valley rain, 4 to 6 inches, maybe a little bit more of Sierra snow, but it's down to 5,000 feet. So that is enough for chain controls. The issue here is that it opens up the door. We've got another system coming in on Monday to Tuesday, another one Wednesday to Thursday, it looks like, at least early on Thursday, and then maybe some clearing by the end of next week. The problem is that once that storm door is open and there's storms available, of which there is, we're just game on for more action going into next week. So the bottom line is that winter is not done with us yet.